Why is
Well,
that so
it's your show. We're just kind of
serious?
like,
I know, but I mean like introductions and hey, this is Kevin, Sandy, blah blah blah, and then we can start.
Okay.
Yeah.
oh well, of course. I'm always going to do that.
Okay.
Okay.
And if anyone wants to interject or a shared experience or just thoughts or whatever, then go for it. I
Right.
mean,
You know
it's
what
kind of
I thought of yesterday, Ashley, when you're talking about Cougar Camp, I was thinking about the face that appeared to me on the first night that we were there,
Hmm.
the fourth person face, and the overwhelming feeling that they were there to protect us. And
Yeah.
they were, because we were right in Cougar. We were right in the Cougar's nest. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is such an amazing story, isn't it?
It is, and it still raises my emotions and gives me a
Yeah.
physical, response when I talk about it
Right.
because it's still fresh. Like that
Yeah,
was so moving on so many different levels.
it was. You were so pale when you came out of your tent, and my heart just felt so bad for you. So it was like, you know, but everything aligned that you were meant to be in the tent. You were meant to do the key fob thing. You were just, it was amazing.
They made me sleepy, Sandy. She made me sleepy
Yes, I believe that 100% so
because
that you
I
would
would have,
go outside.
yeah, I would have gone outside. And
Yeah,
at that moment, I didn't know that they were there. It was only after I got so tired and I laid back down in the bed, that's when I started to hear them walk around. So if
yeah.
I would have gone out there, ah.
Yeah. I would have been like, I hear her, I don't see her. Where's the girl? Oh, we would never leave you, sis.
I
So
know, I know. Like, yeah.
amazing. It's a beautiful story. A beautiful story. Are you eager to go back there?
I am. And it was interesting because I think it
The
was
Cougar
a year after. So we went in 2020, right?
probably. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think it was 2021. I went back just to Carson with my brother, and we went to like a brewery restaurant,
Yeah.
and um, and what was it like? We had as we were leaving on the foresty side of the road, a rock came out and like really got chucked at the truck. It's like, what was that? It was
Hello.
Yeah, it was, I think it was even on the window. And it was so hard that it should have possibly done damage, but it didn't. But it was like, okay. Uh,
Kevin's trying to sequester the dogs downstairs, and Murphy's crying. He doesn't
oh
like
boy.
it. Like, just let him up. I'll take care of him. Yeah. He'd rather sleep at Kevin's feet than be away from him. So it's very sweet. Yeah, I'm not sure I ever want to go back to Cougar Camp. That was quite an experience, but there was some, the prints outside of camp and the trident stick, and there was some experiences there for sure.
It
So
it was the most powerful experience that I've felt of their energy. When she
yeah,
walked around me like that, I've never like it was a one of a kind at this point.
beautiful, very
Well,
How
beautiful.
come this not live? We're talking good things. You guys have put all the good things at the beginning, and we're not. We gotta go
yeah, you got to
live.
remember all that. I'm going to go live now, I guess.
So can you repeat all that word for word?
It's like
Where's Kevin? Boy,
he's right here. He's coming. Are you coming? He's grabbing a bite of crab.
I'll just ask you guys what I wanted to ask you on the air.
Okay, here he is.
Pork and beans for breakfast,
Hey,
lunch, and dinner.
hey,
Oh, are we live?
Yeah,
Not
no,
pretty quick.
no.
All right.
You can say
In a
anything
couple
rude
minutes.
you want right now.
Okay. We went to go get some crab yesterday afternoon, and for whatever reason, a lot of different reasons, we couldn't. And so I was kind of disappointed. It was an hour drive out.
Wait a minute.
So,
Is this a story that is going to be cool for the show?
No,
Yeah, I will.
Well, oh yeah.
Yeah, well
yes, I
then,
will,
then
because
keep
of
it for the show.
Okay, okay.
No, go ahead,
This is
finish
not
it.
Roger.
Don't let Brian interrupt you. He's got a problem with interruption.
Okay, make it
I'm getting
quick.
better.
All right. So
No,
we
but
ended
I
up-
mean, if it's like a real cool story, keep it for the show.
You've heard
right?
of irritable bowel syndrome? Brian has irritable jowl syndrome. You can't keep.
Aw. Aw.
You
and,
got to
and
interrupt.
just like irritable bowel syndrome, there is no cure.
Well,
There's
use Pepto. Pepto Bismol for the symptoms. That's it. Treat the symptoms.
Yeah, not the root cause.
So we decided to go to a restaurant really quick. It's an old hotel, and we walk into the Tokeland Hotel and we sit down and we open the menu, and the first thing Kevin sees is
The special for the night. There's a few specials, but right smack in the middle of the menu was pork and beans. And it's like, man, something's speaking to me here, because I've been to some, without exaggeration, nicest hotels or nicest restaurants in the world.
Is that
And,
is that the post that you posted about the menu?
I
Yeah.
took a picture of the menu.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was like pork and beans I've never had it out of a can before. If it doesn't have aluminum flavor, I'm not going to recognize it.
I saw the prices on that menu too. Like that was the fanciest pork and beans ever.
I was
beautiful.
I was
It
like,
huge.
$42 for pork and beans.
Well, we're
You
high
were-
end.
you-
We're high end actor here, Beans.
I had to get into the there it is.
There it is. Yeah.
I had to get into character for
Pork and
for today.
beans. Chilalas Valley Farm Happy Pork Chop. Pear
That's the most
butter.
expensive thing in the menu.
$42. Is that for one person or two
It
people?
was
Just
a monster
Just
chop.
one.
I mean, we took some of it. It was more than the 20-ounce ribeye, but it's like no, this is a sign. I've got, we're doing pork and beans tomorrow, so it's gotta happen.
It was really
Wow.
beautiful. It was a big pork chop, big beans, beautiful grits. It was like this
Oh,
is so
beans!
fun.
I'm not kidding. Like this big,
Yeah.
and they were beany. They were potatoey. It was great. It was a great meal.
We don't usually take pictures of the menu or the
No.
the food, but we had to and post it for you last night.
Well,
That's
just
so
much
awesome.
like the show, top notch all the way, right?
It's absolutely
That's
Pork
right.
and beans in the can, pork and beans in the pan. Man, we love pork and beans.
Handy, handy, handy.
Dandy, dandy, dandy
handy.
in the pan.
Everybody, this is my name is Pork Cunningham, and I'm here with my distinguished, honorable co-host, the world's handsomest man, Frank Oliver Baines. Hey, Frank. So your little love call didn't go through today? Rained out?
I got rained out.
Oh, well, we're happy
When
to
the
have you.
rain in Spain falls mainly on the plain in Portugal.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're supposed to be here anyway. So hi, everybody. We're back.
That
for
was a
part-
win-win for me. I win if I was on that show. I was winning if I'm on this show.
Yeah. We're back here with Ashlea Stinnett for part 2 because we barely scratched the surface of her story, and we kind of ran out of time because I had a hockey game to go to and Ashley had something going on, and so here we are again. And we're joined with Kevin Carney and Sandy Nelson today. Did you hear that I called you Admiral Nelson's daughter?
I did. I was like, oh, thank you. Unless that's a naughty thing.
I hope we got a lot of photos. You guys, between the three of you, should have like 100 photos.
We have a ton of photos.
At least
but
100.
You don't have them, but we have tons and tons. And I know Ashley does too.
We don't want the naughty photos though you shared with me when I was visiting you.
We only take
yeah, we
them
got
when
those
photos.
too. We got those too.
But anyway, if anybody wants to join, like or subscribe to the show, you can join us on Facebook at the Pork and Bean Show. And if you're watching, you probably figured out where that is. And course, I got my YouTube channel, Sasquatch BC, The True Story. You can hook up with that. And I have all the videos of the Pork and Bean Show edited and a bunch of other stuff on there. Well, I got a frog in my throat. Personal videos and experiences and stuff. Excuse me. I might have to get some water. So Ashley, where did we leave off yesterday? We left off with some pictures, but why don't you, did you want to
She
share
left off with the Panther parade.
Yeah, did you guys want to get more into that, the cougar experience?
The
Because
Panther parade was astounding.
Yeah,
Panther parade.
the cougar camp.
The cougar
Right.
camp.
Yeah, cougar camp.
Yeah,
Well,
Sandy
anyway.
and Kevin, if you guys want to kind of throw in your experiences with it, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I think that it's all relative, especially with the few things that we have to share, but it's very relative. So we get up to this cougar camp that Ashley described yesterday, and the site the last site, possible campsite up on the side of this mountain, it was so far away from everybody, and I didn't like it from the moment we got there, but it was the only place to stay near the other group, which is a mile away. But still, so we pull in and we select our campsites, and right away, Ashley, I think you go into the forest and you find those little structures, and then we go in and see them. And Kevin he doesn't like it. He doesn't like to go in that area. He's like, we're not supposed to be near these structures. So he felt uncomfortable too. So we get camp set up, do our usual thing. And I'm always to bed early because I'm an early riser. So it's you and Peter and Kevin are sitting out of the fire and you're talking. I can hear you talking. I turn out my light in the tent and I lay down and I just close my eyes. I'm not asleep. I'm still hearing you guys talk. And this face appears in my mind's eye. And it is a forest person. And I take it as a he. I don't know why, but I took it as a he. He had just beautiful dark skin, dark hair. He looked at me in such a soulful way. He never said a word. He just looked at me. He was like looking into my eyes, eye to eye. And I really fixated on his eyes because they were not only large, but they were dark brown with darker brown veins running through them. And then there was a small little golden pupil with a little slit that went up and a little slit that went down that was golden as well. And he just gazed at me. And like I said, it was very soulful. And in my head, I'm starting to talk to him. And I'm like, I'm Sandy, you know who we are. We just came to visit you. We come with respect and we're humbled to be in this space. And I'm just rambling on and, is this your home? And instantly I know it's his home. What a stupid question. But anyway, I'm not afraid. But it was just such a very powerful minute or so that all of this I just was trying to talk to him and he just gazed at me. There's no judgment. But what I came away with was that he was there to watch over us and was there to protect us. And I thanked him for that. And then he dissipated and I went to sleep. The next morning, right behind our tent, we hear scratching going up the tree. And Kevin and I instantly think bear. Okay, so it's like, okay, well, we have a bear behind us in the tree.
And it was close. It
Yeah.
was less than 30 yards.
It was
You
right
could
there.
hear the bark falling. It was right there. I mean, yeah, it was close.
So, we get up, we build our fire, we make noise, we do all that kind of stuff. And during the afternoons, we'd go off and look around the area. There was, I don't know, a day or so later, I think you noticed the trident stick sticking off the side of the road, poked into the ground. It was a definite trident stick. And so we went over and started looking at it. And I think it was a 18 or 19 inch print and more narrow. And I'm thinking it was the same lady that came to see you, Ashley, behind your tent. And then off to the side and around a tree was this huge 23-inch print down in the duff. But you could see the toes, you could see the outline of the foot. I tried to look ahead, I tried to look back to see if there were any more, but it was so massive that it was unbelievable, really.
And I think it's important to note that we saw 2 tracks the year prior in that area, probably 3 miles as a crow flies from there, and where we casted a 23-inch print, and I still have that in my office. There was 2. It was a huge stride. I don't know if I know we measured it. I can't remember, but it was an enormous stride. We casted the best print, and that was coincidentally 23 3/4 inch. And then here we see, 2,000 feet above that and 3 miles away, this big 23-incher.
Right. And then we, one morning I get up, I think it was the second or third morning, I can't remember. I get up and I'm out there by myself. I'm making coffee, I'm getting the fire going, and I sit my chair in front of this small fir tree, so that I can see 3 sides of camp, because I'm thinking, well, there's a bear here somewhere. And what I hear from behind me is purring. And I'm like, holy crap, it's not a bear, it's a cougar. And I jump out of that chair and I'm yelling at the forest, and I never saw it, but I certainly heard it. And Kevin comes barreling out of the tent and he's like, build the fire up, get the pot. I start banging on the pots. And
wait a minute. She grabs the fire poker stick.
Oh yeah, I do.
And starts swearing at the woods like a sailor. And Sandy, Michael, you don't know Sandy, but you see her right here. This is life size. Okay. And so this little firecracker is going after this cougar. It's like, oh my God, poor cougar.
I've seen her in action. Remember the raccoon incident?
I know. But it was very frightening. And I actually talked to a zoologist afterwards. And I was like, well, okay, so why do they purr? And she goes, well, it could be several things. It could mean that they're hungry. And I'm like, that's good. Okay. So that's all I needed to hear. I was like, oh, and then your incident happened, Ashley. And it was like, oh my gosh, we were right in the middle of their home.
Their habitat.
Right there.
Yeah.
And so I'm thankful that they tolerated us. And I'm also thankful the forest people watched over us, because we were not in a good situation. So pretty crazy.
Another thing too is after Ashley's incident and everything settled down, we did carefully walk around the tent, and you could see definitely 2 sets of tracks.
Yeah.
These big 5-toed print tracks and cougar tracks. There was a big one and a small one. It looked like the cougar had a small. There was a adult and a juvenile, and they weren't a ton of tracks, but it was enough to identify it clearly that there was 2, a large one and a juvenile. Could be a mother and a cub, I don't know, but those are the ones that were around her tent as well, along with the 5-toed prints.
I'd be more concerned with because of the cub, because I would imagine, like bears, if they have young ones around, they're going to be way more protective and defensive.
Right.
I started doing a lot of research about cougars and safety survival stuff after that incident. And absolutely, Brian, if you are dealing with a mom with a cub, she will rip you to shreds. And there's, we all have to take all of these things into consideration, because we are going out into the forest, and the forest does what the forest does, and has the beings that are residing in there, and it's a different world just based on the natural aspect of it, without the supernatural aspect put into it. So like safety is so important. I ended up doing volunteering a couple months back for some search and rescue in part of the Mount Hood National Forest. and it kicked my ass. Like, I have never experienced such an environment. It was a really bad environment because this part of the forest had been burned a couple of years ago. So it looked like something out of a post-apocalyptic, mayhem, and tons of things were just falling over in the, trees and everything. But it was such a lesson for me to recognize the unwavering strength and ability of the forest to just take you down. So I think it's really important for anyone who is wanting to connect with the Sasquatch more and go into the forest more often. Do your homework and make sure that you are absolutely prepared for any type of situation that comes around, because it ain't just the Sasquatch in the forest, and the cougar and the bear and the elk and all of those beings that are in there. You're in their home. You got to respect it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Sue and I were camping one time. We had and they were watching out for us, and it was really a dramatic story. Because there was, I think there was a large bear around there. And do you want to hear it, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys
Oh,
want to hear
absolutely.
that? Because it's kind of related. So Sue and Sue's terrified of bears, by the way, but for some reason, our trust of the Sasquatch put her at ease, because you don't want to be stupid. You don't want to go in there and just be dumb or whatever, but we do feel that they watch out for us. So anyway, we go in there, and right where we pitch our tent, there was this great big bear print, and it looked like just a single print, which is kind of unusual. Like you find sometimes single Sasquatch prints. It almost makes me think it was a setup just to teach us a lesson about how they watch out for us. I'm not so sure, but it was a little odd that there was only one print, but it looked like grizzly size. So anyway, we watched the Sasquatch. We asked the Sasquatch to watch out for us, and went about the day, whatever. A little later on, we heard something huge crashing across from the other side of the creek, and it was right within our line of vision. There was nothing obstructing where we heard it. Something very, very massive crashed across the creek and came onto our side, but we didn't see anything, which is impossible. If it was an animal, any normal kind of animal, we would have saw something. So I automatically thought it was a Sasquatch cloaked. There's just no other explanation for it. So it was, a cloaked Sasquatch came across, and I guess to watch out for us, or to give the appearance of watching out for us. Because like I said, I don't know if it was just like they were giving as an example of their loyalty, and that they would watch out for us because of the circumstances of the bear track being only a single one or whatever. But anyway, this is in retrospect. So it came crashing across, and like we said, we didn't see anything. Later that evening, so then it went into the elk, right?
Yeah.
So later that evening, we were in our tent, and we heard what sounded like there was a big elk bugling right behind our tent, like right behind it. Okay. Like when they're in rut.
That's cool. It's scary, but it's cool to tell.
Yeah, right behind our tent, like directly behind it. And we're thinking, oh boy, please don't come charging through here, right? But so anyway, the next day we went out and investigated, and what was it, Sue? There were tracks leading away, but not up to it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the tracks didn't make sense. We only saw the tracks of an elk leading away from the tent, not up to it. So it was kind of weird. And the other thing is that elks weren't in rut. It wasn't the right time of year. So they wouldn't have been behind our tent bugling. So that didn't make any sense. So we figure that it was a Sasquatch behind there and watching out for us in some fashion for the perceived danger or whatever. Now, like I said, it might have just been a lesson. There may not have been any danger because the singular bear track kind of, when I think about it, was weird, you know, especially one that big, and it was soft sand. So I don't know. But anyway, it was an illustration of how they watch out for us and protect us and whatever. And, you know, friends taking care of friends, right?
Oh, okay. Well, we set up a recorder somewhat close to camp, and there was an audio recorder, and you could hear clearly the bipedal footsteps walking up to the recorder. Actually, very soon after, you hear the truck start up, drive away. You could hear the footsteps coming up to the recorder, like within minutes of the truck leaving. And you could hear the tapping on the microphone and kind of milling around, but never, there was no exit sound for many, many hours. And then all of a sudden there was another bipedal footstep, a number of them coming up, getting closer to the recorder setup. And there was some milling around, and the tap on the microphone, you heard that again. And then you heard exit walking, bipedal walking, exiting, getting fainter and fainter away. And that sentry, you know, the second shift guy for the late night shift was there. We never heard him leave after that. So it's like, it really, the story it told me just through audio, that was that there were at least two individuals. One came in right after the truck left and kind of stood guard over the recorder setup, and then somebody else took its shift until morning time, until the early morning birds took over, and then it gets so loud you can't hear what's what.
And so you're deducing from this that they were there to watch out for you because of the cougars.
Well, no, this was nearly maybe a half mile away. It's on a bad dirt road, so it always seems like it's longer. Probably a half mile away, but it's a dead end of the road, so that speaks to the remoteness of the area. And it was not close, but what's a half mile in forest people terms?
Nothing.
Yeah.
So for me, it just says that, well, we knew they were in the area, but they probably hadn't seen a recorder maybe before, this parabolic apparatus, and they were keeping an eye on who's hanging stuff in their forest. And so it was just another experience that we noticed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a very interesting area, a very interesting camp out, and I'm not eager to go back. I'm eager to see, witness them again, but not to cougar, not to the cougar den.
So what was the significance of the eye of Horus then? Did that?
It was just the watchful eye. It was just a continuation from having that here, the glyph show up as a watchful eye, and then we go camping pretty quickly after that to cougar country, and that face pops up in my mind's eye of this forest being, and my overwhelming thought was they're here to protect us. So they're keeping an eye.
And the specific description that she gave on what the eye looked like, what this individual's eye looked like in her mind's eye, the blood vessels, the gold pupil. I mean, that's pretty descriptive.
Yeah, that is very amazing. Yeah.
All right. So this was September 2018, and the group went up to an area east of the Cascades, and it pretty large lake that had receded over the summer. The water had receded, and this was we got there and it downpoured the first large rain of the year. And so us as a group went out to the lake shores to see if there would be any good prints. And we were just given every single type of print you could imagine times 10. which was laid out in this perfect canvas that told the story of what happened. And for the most part, the prints were smaller and most likely juveniles. And it was a small of juveniles with most likely a older babysitter who was watching over them. And it was just a big, fun, playful dance across the mud and playing in it and sitting in it and picking it up and throwing it, sticking your fingers in it, sticking your feet into it. So when we got up to this area, the ground was still so good that it was showing the dermal ridges. And there was a variety of some prints from 2-3 weeks ago leading up all the way to this time frame of like the night before. So the activity is constant, but we had this amazing glimpse into a fun night of play of the juveniles. So
Hey,
Ryan.
Ashley.
Yeah.
I was just thinking through this. There was this area we're talking about is probably a quarter-mile square, like 440 yards square. It was very large. But Ashley, do you recall the concentration of all this stuff was in the deepest, thickest, snottiest mud?
Yeah.
It was so thick. I had calf boots on. I could barely walk through it with my trekking pole. Could barely walk through it. It was so wet and snotty and boot sucking mud. And that's where the concentration of prints were. And I didn't kind of add that up until just now. There was plenty of prints on the periphery, but that little super wet area was where that's where the fun was. That was the deep part of the pool where it's really good.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I was just thinking about that. I didn't want to, I didn't want to take away, but I thought that was that just
no. It's a great point. All these data points that were years later, right? Like putting and piecing together. When we take into consideration what the temperature was during the day and during the night, right? And the time of year and the lack of people in that area and the size of the prints, you're not going to have children. As a parent, you're not going to have your children running around in the deepest, muckiest parts of a lake bed, in September, where you could get severely sick as a child, right? Like you wouldn't do that. A parent wouldn't do that. So
I did want to make a comment that there is some kind of a modern cultural phenomenon about barefoot walking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, which is a good thing, but and I bring this up because we live on the Washington coast and it's cold. This is not California. This is North Pacific. It's cold out. And I saw just last week, I was on the beach and saw a lady walking barefoot. So it's really important to be discerning about what is human and what is not human. But again, like what Ashley said, who's going to bring their kid out in this kind of stuff at this time of year when it's so cold? So yeah. I mean, you can have your modern culture all you want, but at the same time, that parental or maternal instinct also kind of takes over as well. So that's just an important note.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're talking about a barefoot grounding, like Wim Hof cold challenge type of body training that adults do, maybe you'd see a couple of tracks down the side, right? You wouldn't have this massive concentration that probably took hours to create you know, by children. So
Right.
for
right.
sure, like there's
Yeah.
definitely people who are out there walking barefoot all the time, and luckily there's more than one way to kind of look at the print and see the differences between us and them.
Well, I'm looking at this print here. That doesn't look like a human print. Look how deep it is too, right?
Mhm.
I think our sound is better now. I put my headphones on. Is it sounding better to everybody?
Oh, it does. Yes.
Yes.
And I unmuted
Yeah.
too. So
It might have been my external speaker, so I turned that off. So hopefully things will be better now. Did you want to continue with pictures, or do you want to talk a little bit and then get back to the pictures?
We can continue with pictures. There's so many stories connected to the pictures.
Okay,
Can we go
and
back?
then-
Can we go back? Can we go back one picture?
Well, I don't know if I have them in order.
Well, that's okay. But that was.
Go forward one picture.
From this
I thought I
one?
saw the.
Yeah.
I thought I saw the donut. Didn't I see the donut?
Yeah.
Oh, the donut?
Yeah.
Is that what you want, the donut?
Yeah, you can put the donut up.
The donut was super cool.
I'm on a well,
That's it.
keto
it. Got
diet,
it.
so I don't mention donuts around me.
This one's carb free. It's made out of mud.
Oh, okay, I can have that.
So when we all got to the lake shores, we kind of split up into a couple of different groups, and Kevin and I went in one direction, and Sandy and Rob went in another. And Kevin's the one who first spotted this collection of prints. And so there was this hole that had been dug out of the ground, and there was a butt print on the edge of this hole where the feet would have been inside of the hole, and you're sitting on the edge. And in front of this hole, there was this massive tree trunk stump that was pushed over, and Kevin climbed up onto this tree stump to get this eagle eye view of what's happening on the ground with this butt print. And this donut made out of mud was sitting on top of this massive tree stump. And it was created from the mud that was on the ground and that was holding all of these prints. There were also what the scene described, what the evidence left behind described, showed that there was an individual who was sitting on the edge of this mud hole, and they were scooping up mud into their hands from either side of them, and they were chucking it at this stump, this massive stump that was in front of it a little ways. And there was an incredible handprint. I got the picture of the handprint on here, like on the right hand side of where this individual was picking the stuff up, the mud, and chucking it at the tree. There's also tinier seat prints, butt prints sitting on the ground around this area. There's a lot of feet prints, a ton of activity, and this beautiful donut made out of mud. And when we got there and we touched it, it wasn't dry yet, right? It still had moisture.
It was, am I unmuted? It was, you could see little fingerprints that had made it. It wasn't like this kind of a thing, because underneath the bottom side, touching the stump, you pick it up and look in the bottom and you can see the tree rings. So it was not made by hand. Not made in your hands. The mud was brought in, set down, pushed into the tree rings of the stump, and then you can see the little fingerprints that molded it together.
I have a question. Is the mud that we saw the footprints on, was brown, and this mud is white. It's very seldom do you see white mud. So can
This is
anybody answer that question?
this picture was of it drying. I mean, this this whole area over the course of what, 3 days, it dried tremendously. It taught me a ton about substrate. Day one after the rains, I could barely walk in this. Ashley was being so nice, saying that I wanted to get a better view by climbing this stump. No, I viewed that stump as a lifeboat, because the mud was that bad, and I just stumbled upon it. Day two, I would sink half as far into the mud. Day three, I could almost walk on top of it. That's how quickly it dried. So this picture must have been taken maybe on day two, because it's obviously dried. It looks like dry clay.
But about the color, you rarely see bone white clay.
The ground it had a lot of clay in it. Like it was the perfect canvas. Once the water was introduced, it wasn't just mud. It had clay. It had the perfect consistency to create donuts and hold dermal ridges.
Also, how big is it? It looks like there's a little purse there. Is that the size of a grapefruit, or maybe an acorn?
It's probably
Yeah,
like
that's a little point and shoot camera case. So yeah, probably less, like 5 inches from top to bottom, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Still amazing.
Yeah, it's still around. One of our group members has it. So it's awesome. It's a beautiful, what a gift. What an incredible gift that in its simplicity says so much.
What do you think? What do you think it says? What does it say for you, Ashley?
Well, it gave us an insight as to who made it with the tiny fingerprints. It gave us insight as to how they made it by bringing, like Kevin said, it was brought up and it was pinched around. I don't know if it was left on purpose or if it was forgotten. I can't look into it that far, but we can at least like paint the picture in our head of its creation through the evidence left of how it was created. I think that's so cool.
Yeah, very cool.
I
Very
think
cool. Let me
knowing
know
that
when
it
you.
was-
Sorry,
knowing
Sandy.
that that's okay. Knowing that it was at least on a 6-foot tall stump, it wasn't until Kevin climbed up on the roots that he saw it. So it wasn't obvious. And if you hadn't climbed up there, you would never have seen it.
Mm-mm.
We would never have seen it.
No.
We wouldn't have thought to look upon a stump, but we do now.
Well, that's pretty revealing too, because that's kind of indicates that it was either somebody sitting up on the stump doing it or a tall individual, right?
Oh, true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't think about the tall individual. I thought somebody would just naturally crawl up there, but if you're tall enough, you didn't have to.
Well, no, I mean, if it was a person, my point is that they would have had to have gone up there and sat on it and done it themselves. So it kind of makes it more likely it was one of our friends.
It eliminates the human factor. I'm 6'3" and I couldn't see it from the ground level. I couldn't see the top of the stump from the ground level.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to jump up on a stump just to make a mud pool.
Right.
I mean, people do weird things, but I can't see any reason or logic behind that.
And I will say when they came and got me and we went back to the bog, the biggest print that I saw in the bog, the longest print was a 10-inch print. There was the one that you showed earlier that was really deep, and that was 10 by 4 inches wide across the ball of the foot and 2 inches at the heel. So quite narrow. And there is a family of, we call them skinny foot. So there's a family in there that's been being monitored since 2007. So that was an interesting print to find in the mud bog itself. There were lots of finger swirls. There were a few footprints a knee print. There were at least 3 butt prints and maybe a 4th. It's hard to make out. But it was really a fascinating area because these individuals were just having a blast. They were slipping and sliding and dragging each other possibly. And it was amazing sight to see. And I instantly, when they started taking pictures, I started looking at the periphery of the mud bog to find what was the largest print that I could find. And there just weren't any huge prints. So whoever, the babysitter was out there with the little kids, because there were 2 small butt prints, but the big guys, if they were around, they were up in the tree line because they were not down on the mud bog. So that was interesting too for me.
Can you tell us a little bit about, you said that this particular family has been monitored since 2007. What's the history behind that?
Well, I started collaborating with David Ellis a couple of years ago over something. I don't remember what exactly, but we started exchanging photos of footprints that we were finding in this area. And I knew that he had been in this area and he would get recordings and that kind of thing. And so when I showed him this skinny foot portfolio that I had started, he's like, oh, well, we've been following that. I've been following that family since 2007. And I was like, really? I'm finding the smallest one I found was 7 inches long. And that was, oh gosh, a different winter.
It was the six-toed print that Sandy shared. And that's what prompted everything. It's like, oh my gosh, I've been following the 6-toed family, not family, but an individual, but it's a genetic trait in that family. I mean, that's what my takeaway is.
Why do you think the tracks are so narrow? Are they a little bit different type of Sasquatch, or why is that?
I wish we knew. So it's either it could be a deformity or it could be a different kind.
Or just a genetic trait.
Yeah.
Within that family. Or within that clan.
Or maybe the Sasquatch are just really small, like 5 or 6 feet tall.
So yeah, the only, I think, are you the only one that has actually seen one in there? In camp? The Sasquatch? The being by the truck?
Yes.
And that was a taller individual.
It was probably 7 foot.
Yeah.
Now this was a
different
full moonlight sighting. It's probably another 3 miles, probably 3 miles as a crow flies from this mud bog to the sighting. But to be fair, the sighting was 10 o'clock at night. It was a full moonlight sighting. And I could not see the head, but I could see almost the neck, definitely the shoulders. And the shoulders were at 6 foot. So I'm imagining, add another roughly 10 inches, 12 inches for the head. So 7. So really what I appeared to see was a 7-footer. That it was close enough walking distance to this mud bog.
So I think that, they definitely come in various sizes. And so, and we don't all have the same kind of footprint, even as humans. So why would they? But we really truly do not know who left all of these artifacts. But when you look at the environment, we're in their habitat. We've had interaction with the forest people there. There's been a sighting. There's been other sightings by their people. Other researchers outside our group have been following the same families that we're finding footprints of. Tells me there's a thriving clan in there, thriving families in there.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very, very cool when you start collaborating with others.
Yeah. So should we move on? Do you want to direct me, Ashley, do you want the next picture?
Yes.
And like I said, I apologize. I don't know if they're in order or not, but
I
Oh,
don't think
here's-
I unfortunately sent them to you in order, but they all kind of flow together nicely. These are casts that were set up at one of the conferences that are from that time frame, and from the mud bog and from that whole experience. And the one in the middle, I do believe I've got the photo of what this cast was taken from. And this was such an anomaly, and it's a head scratcher for people who come up and check it out at the conferences too. Like, what the impression looked like on the ground was potentially someone had urinated onto the ground. Okay, fine. Well, this pattern that was left and the indentation that was left in the ground indicated a lot of pressure and a lot of force to be able to create even that type of impression and indentation. And so it had to be casted, right? Like we had to remember this as I don't think it's something that we've come across before or since. And yeah, there's more force than an elk, right? Like there's more force than a bear, there's more force than a cat, there's definitely more force than a human. And we had some people try and mimic what had happened right there, right in the same type of environment, right in the same substrate. And not
Hopefully
even
you weren't filming it and they were alone.
those are the secrets. Those are the secrets that we keep.
Oh, those are those pictures that we were talking about. Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
this was actually 10 inches in is it diameter across, 10 inches wide, and the thrust was 1 3/4 inch deep. So if you can think, 1 3/4, that's quite a healthy thrust. The grass was just splayed out in a big circle, and there were footprints leading up to these pea holes. So, and luckily we did cast it, and nobody has an idea of who would have made it. So,
And all these footprints are from the same area as this one here.
pretty much. Pretty much.
This
Yeah,
one?
cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't think,
I mean-
the one at the bottom left,
I'd have to go look at it.
I don't think that's from
But
from
the
this
others,
area.
the others definitely
the smaller
are.
ones most likely are all from this particular trip.
This one here, yeah. This is a
Yeah,
nice
it's
one.
very fascinating, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, somebody wants to buy that one from us.
Here's some more of them.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
So this
Yeah,
is,
great.
do you remember the size of this one?
No, I have it downstairs. I would say probably around 8 inches or so, 8 or 9 inches, maybe. Kevin's running downstairs.
I think it's smaller. I think this is one of the small ones. I can't remember. But let's look at that arch. Let's look at the impression left of what the foot did when it went into the substrate, because I don't think that I could make my foot do that, like leave an impression like that.
That is not
Yeah.
an arch.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It is smaller. Yeah, my middle index finger and my thumb, I could spread them out to 8 inches, and the toe is actually here, so it's probably only 6.
So
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So,
no arch.
yeah. Yeah. So
Very cool. Go on.
yeah.
It's a nice
So-
print.
yeah, we can kind of breeze through these if you want.
Okay.
Oh, let me just tell you this one real quick. So this is right outside my house, in my front yard, and it is a glyph. Again, I had told you I make this glyph where I incorporate a Y and an A for my partner and my initials, first initials. And it's something that I leave in the woods, and it also showed up in front of my front door on my, right in front of my porch.
Yeah, that doesn't
So,
surprise me.
yeah. Yes, we have lots of encounters in the forest, and we have encounters at home, and there seems to be kind of like a larger concentration of activity around the house after I get back from a camp out.
Right.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
that makes sense.
we've had the house slapped twice on the windows, which were so intense they should have broken the windows. We've had glyphs left around the house, around the front yard. And yeah, like it's just another indication of their capabilities. They can go where they want to go.
Absolutely. I have exactly the same experiences, which is pretty cool, collaborative evidence. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's cool.
So,
I guess we're getting back to some of the mud. Should we move over these or?
no, this is good stuff. So this is the hole itself, when right above where he's pointing at with the stick, that's the butt print where they were seated, and they had their feet in that muddy water. And if you move ahead, I think I've got the handprint. There's this phenomenal handprint that unfortunately was, oh, there we are showing the stuff.
Is this a handprint?
That is that footprint that had really had swiped through down deep.
Oh, I get you. Okay.
Yeah. We didn't get to cast the handprint, unfortunately, but we were able to photograph it. But there was and this whole, this is something that I always bring up, and I think you guys always bring up too, when we talk about this particular find, was that we could have done better with how we approached the scene, because our emotions kind of took over, and we were just like giddy and, oh my gosh, look at this, look at this, look at this. Well, in the process of doing that, we destroyed some of the most important pieces of evidence that were given to us, because we didn't step back and we didn't kind of go through in a utilitarian and structured fashion of evidence recovery. So yeah, in this process, we got these phenomenal prints, but also in the process, we lost a lot, and it was a huge lesson.
I learned that nobody watches CSI in our group. Otherwise, we would have known how to protect a crime scene, because that's the way we should have approached it. And we didn't. So you learn and you move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like this.
So this is pretty awesome. And there's a lot going on in this photo. This was July of 2019 in Greenwater, and it was also my partner and I's 10th anniversary that year. And in July of 2019, we suffered an incredible loss. A friend of ours passed away, and it happened very soon before this camp out, and very soon before our anniversary. And we get to the camp, and it was a very emotional, difficult camp for us, just because of our own personal healing that was in the process of happening through, what we were going through. And we got to the site that we decided to camp out, and we picked it out, and we set it up our tent, and then we found this right behind where we decided to put up our camp. And if you notice that this ring is on kind of like this hooked out part of the of the tree. So
Right.
someone went in there and pulled back on this bark and created a nice little wedge to hang this on top of or inside of. And it was beautiful, and it brought so much peace into our hearts. And it was this like other focal point for us to kind of focus on and really connect with why it was placed there. And they knew that we were hurting. They knew, you know, and during that camp out, this wasn't the only time that they compassionately showed us that they cared, right? But what's so cool about this is that if you add up the branches, the twigs, the shoot offs of this main one, it adds up to 10. And there's 9 offshoots off of the main one, and that adds up to 10, which was in alignment with our 10th anniversary that we were there, you know, right in the middle of. So
Wow, that's cool. The small little details, the subtleties. They're so subtle in the things that they do and so detailed. It's incredible. I love that.
yeah, good stuff.
Big X.
Big X, that was at the same 2019 July camp out, and there's always a beautiful X, and if it gets blown down or torn down or something, another one always appears. So
Now my meaning for X is friendship welcome. What's your meaning? Because I mean they're all unique to the individual. I think anyway.
yeah, I feel that too. I don't see it as a menacing or like stay out or, you know, that type of thing. I remember Chris Connor, right? Chris was with us on a camp out, and he was describing in Florida that structures and X's, he started kind of measuring what direction they were pointed in, and he found correlation with like true north and you know, very directional that they were going into. So that's just a data point. But I feel that it's, you know, when you're walking into camp and this is the first thing that you see, it really does feel like a greeting and a welcome, and X marks the spot. Here we are.
Well, yeah, but like I said, it's you know, my personal experiences is that my meaning for the glyphs is personal between myself and them. So, but yeah, I get that feeling too. And that does seem like that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That it's good interpretation.
Hey, Brian and Mike.
Yeah.
Ashley just brought up a really good thing. Have you had Chris Connor on your show?
No.
You may want to. He's quite the font of information as well. He works out of he works in the Green Swamp in Florida. He's a very I don't want to say aggressive, but persistent investigator, and he's got some phenomenal theories. And if you're looking for a guest, he might be a good one. Chris Connor, he's Trail to Bigfoot, Trail of Bigfoot, Trail to Bigfoot. He's got a YouTube channel. But he would be a great interview, and I would absolutely listen to it.
Hey,
Do you know him personally?
Anybody who knows him, send him our way.
Yeah, we've camped with him, and we're debating going to Florida actually, and going. Well, I want to go swatching with him. Sandy wants to go seashelling, go beaching. Yeah,
Beaching and squatching.
He's a very passionate guy, very intellectual guy. He's the kind of guy that you want to camp with. He's the kind of guy you can rely on. That's not a lot for me. That's not a lot. You know, somebody can handle himself in the woods. And he's got real good insight and introspection. So,
is he friends with the Sasquatch people, or is he investigator of the Sasquatch people?
That's a good question.
I'm not sure. I don't think he's friends with them, but he's got stories. I'm not going to tell him, but he's got stories, and he's got a friend that has a very traumatic story that's definitely worth a listen to.
I heard that story. Yeah, it's
I think
scary.
he's more cautious in the green swamp. He thinks, I know he knows that they're different beings up here than they are down there. But he has a certain level of respect for all of it.
He does.
So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, if you know him, send him, maybe,
Send him
drop
Okay,
him a line
I can do
and
that.
see if he wants to come on.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, that sounds good.
I didn't want to interrupt, but I just thought it was a good. I thought he'd be
That's
a
good.
good.
We need more qualified, in-depth people.
This guy fits the bill. Yeah. Okay. I didn't want to interrupt. I just didn't want to let that go. That's all.
That's
I'm
cool.
glad, I'm glad that you said it because I want to hear more from him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope he comes out and both of them, he and his wife, it would be great to camp with them again because it was a great
Yes.
experience.
What are we looking at here, Ashley?
I actually don't know. I might have, I don't know why I included this, but again, it's in the same area where a lot of glyphs show up. I don't know. We can kind of skip ahead.
Now, this one I love.
Yes.
This
So that one,
as you know, as you guys know, I get some pretty cool gloves, right? And this is 100% one of their gloves. Like, there's some that good possibility looks like them. This one's not one of those. This is definitely a glove. There's no
Yeah.
question about it.
yeah. So, and again, just like no other sticks around, no other anything. There's no reason, I made the little rock stacks up there. And this one was interesting. It was pointing straight at our garden box. So yeah, that one was fun.
So this is at your house, right? This is your dog here?
Yeah.
Okay, there it is again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see a 4 there. X. Yeah, it's that's crazy cool. Did it have any meaning for you?
It does have some pretty intense personal meaning.
Now, are
for me,
you
yes.
looking at it from this angle? Is this how you see it, or you see it reversed?
I really wasn't sure. I definitely resonated with it in this direction, but if you flip it around, then it's got the 4 and it's pointing towards the garden box. And I think there might have been something going on with the garden box. I might have found some sort of like impression in the garden box. I can't remember. This was a few years back, but yeah, like that wasn't made by anyone in my neighborhood.
No.
Hey,
Well,
I have
there's a couple things. Sorry, Kevin. There's a couple. Just give me a second. There's a couple things here that I notice is their work from my experience is that how it's rubbed off here. You see quite often, and you see how it's snapped right here.
Yeah.
That's not natural. That's something that I recognize that they do all the time. So, that's very cool. That's 100% a glove. What were you gonna say, Kev?
I said I have a hard time seeing glyphs sometimes, but this just looks so obvious to me.
Yeah.
Well,
Did you see it? What did you see it as you were coming out of the house or as you were going into the house?
I think when I came out, I saw it and I was like, what?
Yeah, so that's probably the orientation they wanted you to see it.
Mm,
Oh, yeah, good point.
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, that is
I
very
think,
cool.
I think
I
it
like
point-
that.
I think pointing to all those rocks that you collected, there was like somehow championing that. There's like, yeah, we see that,
This is I mean, like, I don't know where my house is in alignment with the ley lines of the earth, but there is so much that happens just in my front yard, and around my house in this very suburban, very highly populated, human populated neighborhood area of a very populated city. And I'm quite certain that when we came home from in 2018, when we got the butt print, and I came home from that trip, there was so much that happened on that trip. There was just layers upon layers upon layers, and the weirdest off the chart stuff that happened. And when I got home, and it was also very emotional, there was a lot, like so much happened on that trip. And when I got home, I unpacked everything. I actually had a CD that I had lost. I was looking for because I wanted to listen to it on the ride home. Couldn't find it. Spent way too much time looking for it. Decided whatever, not going to worry about it. I get home and then I look and it was sitting on the top of my bag right next to me. Okay, where did that come from?
That was inside your house or in your car?
No, it was in my car. And it was with me the whole time. I had listened to it on the way out there. I couldn't find it and really wanted to listen to it on the way home, but decided, okay, well, whatever. And then it was just right on top of all of my stuff right next to me. So
Yeah, I love that kind of stuff.
yeah, but
They do that kind of stuff where they'll hide something on you, and then you see it, and like you'll check 2 or 3 times in a specific place, and then the 4th time you check, there it is, kind of thing.
Yeah. And
The other thing I'd like to mention is that you're going away from your home and you're having experiences. You're having experiences with another clan, and then when you come back home, the clan nearest you will leave you some kind of a gift or some kind of confirmation that they know you're having a good time or something. And that I think that's really important. I think it happens to a lot of people when you. Well, it doesn't happen to Brian so much because the clan, he lives so close to his clan. But even so, it would happen to his wife Susan when she would go up there to see them, and then she'd come home, and then there'd be something that they did.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not the same clan just moving around, doing, leaving it where they want. It could be both. It could be both, though. It could be either.
It could be or they beat you home. That's that you could.
Well, when I got home that night and I got everything unpacked, and it was dark out, I went outside with Walter, and I was kind of consumed in my phone because I had all of these messages, and plus kind of looking over the details and catching up with the chats, the messenger groups, because of this camp out as well. So I was I was trying to catch up on stuff, but I went outside with Walter. I was on the porch and he was totally fixated and just staring across the street. Across the street, we've got some condos and kind of a larger 4-car parking area, uncovered parking area for those condos across the street. In front of that, there's a motion light, and it comes on very easily. It comes on when a cat walks under it, or a basketball rolls across. Like it picks up the motion and it'll light up the entire area. So when I was on the porch and Walter's looking across the street and he's just very intense, I look up and I saw a dark figure walking around the cars, because there were 2 cars that were in these 4 spots and they were both pushed all the way to the front, and this light's in the center of it. And I saw this dark figure walking around, and not too tall. They were still kind of like a human size. They weren't extremely tall. They were still human size. And I looked up and I didn't think anything of it. It's just a neighbor walking around their car. And so I went back to my phone and I'm trying to, catch up on these messages and whatnot. And my dog is just continuing to stare over in that direction. And maybe about 2 to 4 minutes later, I look up and I'm pretty sure it was a portal, because it was in between the 2 cars. And I could see the reflection of the light that was emanating from this basketball, larger than basketball size orb of light. And on the sides of the 2 cars, it's reflecting and it's shooting out all of this light not like spotlights, it's not going up far, but it's contained in this area. And I'm watching it and it goes poof, 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 and then it's gone.
Wow.
And I'm like, what the hell? What what was that? What? It stunned me. It completely stunned me. And I'm like, okay, well, I know that that's like something that they do. I know that this is a thing, but did this just happen in front of my house? Like, what is going on? And then I thought back later to that dark individual, pure dark individual who was walking around the car just a few minutes before that. My mind just said it was one of my neighbors. Well, that light never came on. That spotlight, that motion light had never reacted to that person walking around. And then when I put those two together, I was like, holy crackers. Like, they came back here with me, or at least like they know my energy. They know where my energy is in the world. They can pop in whenever they want. And they showed me that.
Yeah.
And I have gone out there every day since, every night since, and consciously looked in that area to see if I could see any type of anomaly, phenomena, whatever that would match what I saw that night. And it's never happened again. So
Well, I have a friend in New York State, and he's got a real hot spot behind his house. He's in upper New York somewhere, and he's sort of in like a fly zone or of the ET people, the star people. And he said about every week or almost every day, you'll see the craft go by, and then they'll drop out a ball of light. Usually it's like a ball of orange light. And then the ball of orange light will come down close to the ground. And then a few minutes later, you'll see a Sasquatch just running in the woods. So this connection between the ball of light and the Sasquatch has been around for a while, and I think it's real. There's something going on about that, the ball of light and then the physical Sasquatch.
yeah.
I'll put the pictures back on in a bit, but I did. Did you want the pictures back on now? Or you want to talk for a bit?
No, let's talk.
Hey, Sam.
I wanted to make one comment that I thought it was interesting that Walter, your dog, picked up on that way before you did.
Oh yeah. As soon as he walked out, he just stared. And that's what he'll do. Like, even if he sees a skunk or a raccoon, he will just like stare. He won't go nuts. He won't start barking. He won't, cause a big scene. He'll just watch. And that's what I saw him do. But I was so engrossed in what I was doing that I didn't, I saw it, but I didn't see it. And then when all of that happened, it was just like, oh man. Okay, they can do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I think that these hotspots or whatever people talk about it, they may be hotspots, but they may just be because the people that they're connected with are there.
Yeah.
Like Sue and I moved to a place recently, and there's a little park right across the street, and we see Sasquatch stuff in there all the time. Now, I'm not saying it's because of us, but I'm not discounting it either. I know that
don't discount
both
it.
can happen.
I mean, we're all where we're at. We're not all running away to the woods because we can't stand society and where it's at right now, even though we all kind of can't stand society and where it's at right now. But we're holding space where we're at, right? Wherever we're at in the cities, wherever we're at in the rural areas, wherever we're at, we are bringing in that frequency and holding it. And it makes a difference. I've lived in this same area for quite some time. And when I first moved into this area, it was rough, and it's still pretty rough, but I'm convinced that like we've definitely kind of like held a frequency and kind of stood our ground energetically, and we aren't messed with, and this area has cleaned up, and there's, kind of like a thriving aspect to it that and it's not just me, there's good people everywhere, and everybody's got frequency, and we're all doing it. But when you're conscious and you know that you can hold the frequency a little higher, when we do that in our neighborhoods and where we're at, like, it does make a difference.
that just talks about how, we can create our own future and and exactly with what you said, holding our energy, whatever, that's amazing. And it's a real thing. I think that's really important for people to hear. I've heard that before too, where we're good people with good intentions, good energy, will go into areas and things change just because of their thoughts, their energy, their intentions, and stuff like that. That's one of the most important points that you made on the show, I think. Worth
Yeah.
repeating.
For sure. Thank you.
I wanted to ask you last time when we ran out of time. I want to ask you, what is your you mentioned a lot about your relationship with Sasquatch, but just to ask you directly, what do you see the relationship to Sasquatch? Yesterday you talked about a teacher a couple of times, and a couple of times you talked about being healed. But what do you right now feel is like your relationship with the Sasquatch people?
I do feel that it's a student teacher relationship that is based off of familial love, and that there's there are people, we're a people, and there's so many other types of people, right? And yeah, I mean, I feel that the interaction that I get to have, the experiences that I've been able to have always had a lesson connected to them. And I've always been able to integrate them in really, really, really positive ways to make better change for myself in the emotional, the spiritual, the physical, all of those things. I get to improve through what they provide lovingly, because I have reached out, and I think that's something that is very true in this reality, that if we put forth the effort into anything, we will get a response from that. And if that's on these energetic levels or universal law levels or whatever, but it definitely fits the bill, right? Like the attention goes where energy flows, or however that saying goes. That's the truth. And the starting up here is the thought, and moving out into the physical and actually doing something, or having a goal, setting a goal, doing something, putting the energy into whatever it is, then that energy and that is going to meet you halfway. So what are we all doing? We're putting our energy into connecting with these beings, and they are absolutely meeting us halfway. And what they bring to the table is just incredible gifts of teaching and connection and remembrance. And so yeah, that's how I see the relationship. But I also see it on a familial, I feel it on a family level. Like this is family. You don't get this type of interaction unless there's like true, awesome, beautiful bond between. So yeah, it's a student teacher relationship, and it's a family vibe.
Wow, you said that so beautifully. You know what? If I could have said the same thing, and maybe not as eloquently, but if I did, I would have said an identical thing. That's exactly my relationship with them too. Word for word. And I think that it could be for a lot of people who may not realize it. They may be being contacted in the same way, but their perception is a little different, or their fear or something is not quite right for them to pick up on exactly what you talked about and what I've experienced. But I think it's probably happening to way more people that are having experiences than just you and I, obviously. But maybe they're just missing something. They're not picking up on something.
Well, one of my criteria is what happened to me when I knew that they were in my house. They used to throw rocks at my windows, and I was in Miami-Dade County, which is not exactly Sasquatch Central, and I was like kind of out, just right in the middle of things, and they would. And then I saw that they were moving stuff around in my house. And I already was touched by them. I knew that they were amazing beings. They're really high spiritual beings. So at that point, when I realized they were in my house, and I said, well, they're coming in my house anyway. I ought to give them a formal invitation. So I invited them in my house and say, you know, as long as you don't bother me, or it looks cool, you can come in invisible anytime you want. It's cool with me. But then as soon as I said that, I realized that they were in my mind too. They knew my mind. They knew what I was feeling and thinking. And I said, well, I invite you into my mind. I trust you. You can come in and look at my being and look at my past and future, all that kind of stuff. Whatever you want to look at, you're welcome to come in my mind. And there's no separation, because I knew that's where they live is no separation. And so to me, that's always kind of like a litmus test. Is how many, if you're friends with Sasquatch people, would you welcome them into your house? Would you welcome into your heart and mind? So yeah, and that's what that family business is all about. You don't feel, they don't have like a real long-lasting friend zone. It just goes from friend to family right off the bat.